You're tuned into Cinema Symposium.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Cinema Symposium. This is our third episode of our News Dump series. I am Matthew Duvall.
And I'm Blake Warman.
And today we have four stories for you. I have two, Blake has two. I have one about the Champaign movie making scene. I got it from the Champaign Movie Maker Facebook group. I think it's a drastic and very large and needed change for the Champaign movie scene. And also one titled, Hollywood Uses Bigger Screens to Tell Sophisticated Stories.
And I have two stories as well. One of mine involves the story of the Mask of Zorro. I'll give you the quick title here of the article, which is Post-Apocalyptic Zorro Reboot is on the Way. Also, I have another story which involves the most recent Fantastic Four movie, which is entitled Josh Trank Refuses All Blame for Fantastic Four's Failure. And on that note, go ahead and introduce your story, Matt.
Sure. The first one is local here in Central Illinois, is about Champaign, Illinois. I am a member of the Facebook group Champaign Movie Makers. It's a fantastic resource if you're trying to get into movie making in the Central Illinois area. That said, there was a post dated August 7th at about 1:44 p.m. by a user whose name is Brett Hayes, and he basically says, hello, Champaign Movie Makers. I've been working with Visit Champaign. He lists a bunch of different Champaign City organizations, and he's basically helped them to create a film office, a regional film office, in order to help promote filmmaking in the Central Illinois, particularly the Champaign, Illinois area. And here is the one takeaway paragraph from his post that I will read here. The office will offer a wide variety of things, like helping with location procurement/clearances, as well as a liaison with local/county/state government, business, institutions, neighborhood churches, farmers, etc. So basically they've created this one resource where if you're trying to make films in the Central Illinois, particularly Champaign-Urbana area, say, I'm trying to make a film that's going to be taking place on 4th Street about 12 p.m. Who do I need to contact and what do I need to sign to be able to do that? You send them that message and they help you out. And that would be so freaking fantastic to have, and to have in more places. Any growing town or city or municipality should probably have something along the lines of this. I was really excited to see this. I think it's a great development for area filmmakers around here who could use all the assistance they can. And it is in a very official way, Champaign saying, please come make films here. Yes, we want you to make films here. We will hug you and give you kisses and toys and candy. That's my take on that story. Blake, what do you think?
Well, my take is I don't know about the hugs and kisses and the candy. But on that note, I completely agree with you. And I think it's actually a real step up of what some cities could do in forms of helping filmmakers and actually getting some publicity into their local towns, especially with I think it's very intricate, especially in the idea that, just one website or one source really to find help and where you want to and who you need to talk to get to get approval to film in certain spots and how you can go about doing that. Because I know most filmmakers, they have to jump through a bunch of different hoops. They have to talk to one person who then connects them to another person who then probably connects them to another higher up, and you have to get approval by all three just to get an approval for just one area to shoot at. And on that note, I think it's actually, in general, I think it's a great way, a more convenient way for filmmakers to get that sort of seal of approval. My next story involves a reboot, of course. Getting sick and tired of these, but I just couldn't resist talking about this reboot. So the title of this article, which is on www.comingsoon.net, is Post-Apocalyptic Zorro Reboot is on the way. If you're not familiar, there is a movie that came out in 1998 that starred Antonio Banderas called Mask of Zorro. Great film. I should watch it sometime. But that movie, which took place in the movie literally took place back in it was in New Mexico. It was real olden days, almost Civil War or even older than that really. But point is, it took place. The movie actually took place a long time ago. Now the movie is getting a reboot in a completely different way. Not only is it getting a reboot with different different people and whatever, it's getting put in a a post-apocalyptic world. I don't know how I feel about this. It's definitely different, and it's a clever way to, I guess, sell a movie, but these reboots are getting on my nerves. Just the more and more movies I see that are getting rebooted, and I feel like this is sort of like the tip of the iceberg for me. It's gotten to a real critical point where this is kind of ridiculous. They are really stretching to pull out reboots right out of the butts. I mean, just the idea of this seems kind of stupid. Your thoughts, Matt?
I could see it winning an Oscar. No, here's how I envision the big Hollywood production companies working. Intern, give me a new movie that's gonna make me money. Zorro made money. We could put it in the future with zombies, and the Titanic comes from the moon. That's kind of my take on that story. I don't know how much I have to say about that. I mean, post-apocalyptic Zorro. I'm almost excited to see it in the sense that it's no, never mind, I'm not, but it very well could still win an Oscar if Hollywood keeps trending in that direction. Oh my God, can you imagine the creativity that went into putting Zorro into a post-apocalyptic scenario? It does kind of lend itself towards being almost a parody. Hollywood is becoming a parody of itself, and how much it's just blatantly, hey, this concept will put asses in seats, so let's do it. Speaking of putting asses in seats, my next story is titled "Hollywood Uses Bigger Screens to Tell Sophisticated Stories." I'll try to pull like a paragraph from this. Well, basically, I'll sum it up. A lot of times during this season of the movie-going year, you see a lot of films that are Oscar contenders. Like this article mentions, though top Oscars have gone lately to tightly spun dramas like Birdman and 12 Years a Slave, Hollywood's major studios are preparing to flood festival screens and commercial theaters with an unusual year-end wave of grown-up movie spectacles, shown in the 3D or large screen format that is usually reserved for action blockbusters with younger audiences. Focus on that for a second. They're going to take the screen and just change it, or put it in 3D for films that you would typically associate with Oscar worthiness. Films, screen formats, and film technology that is usually reserved for explosions and Michael Bay awards, things like that. They're going to be showing stuff that they want to win at the Oscars. It's kind of what I was hinting at with my take on your news story. I don't have a problem with it, actually. I don't know if I have a problem with it or not. I'll have to wait and judge after the fact. I'm interested to see what happens. Here's the interesting thing about this for me. And I'm going to take this in a direction that maybe you weren't expecting. I am a history buff. Not just a history buff, but a history nerd to like the nth degree. And in one of our other episodes, I talked about how Hollywood is going to try to bring people back into the seats, and how they did it back in the 50s and the 60s whenever TVs were first coming out. And they did it by making the screen bigger, and they made it even more widescreen, and they used 3 screens and things like that. Way back when, in like the 40s and the 50s, whenever the television first came out, that was like the first crisis for movie theaters, because people were like, oh my gosh, I can watch a motion picture in my home. I can watch a TV show in my home. They stopped going to the movie theaters, and interestingly enough, the history behind that, they focused so much on what the film industry did was add color. They added, they messed with the screen aspect ratio. They started adding multiple screens, like some on the sides, like to get your peripheral vision in. They did so much stuff. That was what they did to get people to come back to the movies, and they added surround sound and things like that. Well, wouldn't you believe it? They're doing it again. They are doing it again, according to this article anyways, and we shall have to wait and see what actually happens. But they're trying to make the movies be an experience. And then you and I talked, and maybe you can reference this in your reaction to this story. Are they just giving up with people going to the movies? We had the story about them doing video on demand early releases with major studios and things like this, and now they're doing bigger screens and different formats. I find this fascinating for the potential that it has. I don't know. What do you think?
So yeah, my opinion about that is, while I understand, I don't feel like they're actually giving up on the idea of, they're definitely not giving up on getting people's butts in seats for movies by any means, especially if they're thinking about, adding bigger screens and adding 3D to movies that essentially don't really need 3D quality. Personally, I don't know how well the 3D is going to work out for him personally, just because when I think of seeing a movie in IMAX 3D or even in 3D in general, I think action movie. I think IMAX specifically for that only because I'm thinking wide shots. So when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm looking at space and awesome freaking like space battles with spaceships and all kinds of cool stuff. I'm seeing a lot of action, a lot of things happen on screen. So the use for having 3D is there. The use for having wider shots is there. While in most dramas, you don't see wide shots. You see close-ups. You see facial reactions, which is fine, and I think it'll be a different experience to see it in 3D. And again, it's just sort of my opinion. I don't think it's going to help it much at the moment, but it's definitely something I'm willing to try out to see. Am I going to get more connected with the movie if I see it in 3D? But on that note, it comes to my final story, which is related to the most recent Fantastic Four movie. So in case any of you have not heard, the most recent Fantastic Four movie is a flop. Completely horrible. It is now known as the worst Marvel movie ever. That is no lie. It actually is. It's worse than the previous Fantastic Four movies. And on top of that, it's even worse than the Batman and Robin movie that came out in the 1990s. So if that puts things into perspective, yeah, I think you'll get the idea. But the point is, what happened with this movie? Well, according to geekyrant.com, Josh Trank refuses all blame for the Fantastic Four's failure, in part because of studio execs telling him, this is the movie we want you to make, not the movie that you are wanting to make right here. And if you don't know who Josh Trank is, he's the one who made the movie Chronicle, which was sort of a found footage movie and this and that. A little bit different found footage movie. But he actually tweeted out, which this tweet is deleted now, but someone took a screenshot of it, and this is what he said. A year ago, I had a fantastic version of this, and it would have received great reviews. You'll probably never see it. That's the reality, though. So according to him and a bunch of other sources, movie execs in the studio actually cut out a bunch of pieces of the film. In fact, Josh Trank wasn't even allowed into the editing bay where they edit the film and cut things together, which is actually probably one of the worst, which is where he's supposed to be, essentially, in my opinion. And that's him again he's completely taking himself out of the blame, which I think is kind of interesting. Personally, from what I've seen of the movie, he needs to take a little bit some of the blame as well as a couple other people. But at the same time, what are your thoughts, Matt, on the idea of movie studios completely taking over a film like this and possibly ruining it?
If it was completely true that they didn't let the director into the editing bay, then he probably deserves, in my opinion, no blame for how horrible the film is. Because to me, as someone who's made my own little short films or whatever, that's where the movie's actually made. I mean, it is so important on the set to have a good shoot, to have good actors, to have a good, DP, the director of photography, to have all of the great pieces there on the set. And then you take all those great performances, and that's your palette. Like a painter takes different colors and mixes them together, and he can draw from that and make the actual picture. Editing is when that happens for a filmmaker. And if you're not actually allowed to edit your own film, then that's not your film. You were just a really high-level, I don't know, director's assistant, in my opinion, at that point. But, I don't know. You could also talk about larger things like money and the involvement. There's always a weird relationship between artists who want to tell a story and then the people who have the ka-ching to actually get people to see it. Because the people who have the ka-ching aren't mentally built the same way an artist quote unquote is, and there's some contention there. So there is some give and take. There always is. It's a business. The debate has gone on for years and years and years and probably will never stop. But this could be a case. If it's true they didn't let him in the editing studio, then this is probably a case where the people with the money really don't have any ability to just keep their hands off it all, and it's probably their fault. If that's true, who knows? Maybe we'll find out someday.
Well, on that note, just a quick couple things for our audience. If you like this video, definitely give us a like down near the description. Also, we're going to put some links to some of the stories in case you want to read some more information about them in more detail. And also, if you like some of our videos, give us subscribe to our channel. And also comment. We appreciate having comments, and we actually just got we've added 2 comments here, which for us is amazing. One of our comments didn't know exactly how to react, but shout out to that person. But in general, subscribe to the channel if you like our videos. We try to put out videos every week. On that note, I'm Blake Warman.
And I am Matthew Duvall.
And this is Cinema Symposium signing off.